looking to see through glass. Now, given all the sort of Porsche related activity that I'm doing this year and the fact that I'm driving a Porsche around the world, arriving here in LA, there was really only one man that I could go and visit as my sort of first stop in the US leg of Drive the World, and that man is Magnus Walker. If you don't know Magnus, he's kind of like an unofficial authority on all things Porsche. And so I'm headed to his garage, which is a sort of incredible workspace, homes, warehouse. I don't really know how to describe it. I guess we're going to let him do so. So yes, I'm going to head down there and check out his quite incredible collection.
Hey
Magnus, how you doing?
Good.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me down. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm actually, this is already blowing me away, but this is really the one car that I wanted to talk to you about today.
Oh,
because
okay.
I only really learned about this car a sort of year or so ago. I was in Portugal, an amazing place down there called Sport Classe that restore old Porsches, and they had 4 of these in the rack.
Porsche made 406 of them, so that's one of the 406. Interesting story, ironically, I brought it in Australia.
No way.
So Porsche made 406 of them. The interesting thing about this car, it had been in Japan for quite some time, then it made its way to Australia. I purchased it. It's a long story, but I'll give you the short version. I get emails all the time. I don't really chase cars, they kind of come to me. Guy sends me a pretty funny email. It was kind of cocky. It sort of goes, you know, if you're a true Porsche head, you should own this car. And I go, what's the car? He didn't tell me what it was. He said, oh, it's a 924 Carrera GT, and actually it was a car that was on my list of cars to own. So long story short, the car was offered to me. I ended up buying it in Australia and shipping it to LA, and it's the second car that I've bought in Australia.
Wow.
The other one is a right-hand drive 75 Turbo, and we'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, this for me is my, when it comes to Porsche, I'm all about everything. So the goal is one of everything Porsche's ever made in a sports car. So that's front engine, mid-engine, rear-engined, air and water cooled.
How close do you feel like you are? Let's want a percentage figure.
Well, I've just finished off what I call the front engine Transact sold Vasage cooled collection. So 924, 928, 944, and I just acquired 2 968s. If you were coming tomorrow, you'd see the 968.
Wow.
So that section of it's covered. The 914 covers the mid-engined air-cooled section. So the next car on the wish list for me is a Gen 1 Cayman or a Cayman R.
Cayman R, that's
now, as great as the
spot.
Cayman Gt4 is, when it comes to collecting, I like to start at the beginning.
Nice.
So, for example, I own a couple of early 78 928. So, Cayman Gt4, perhaps my favorite Cayman, but I kind of want a Gen 1 just because it's the beginning of the Cayman.
Start at the beginning. And the R, as you say, I mean, there was so that, what's that green? They had a very
whatever that
specific
light chartreuse green is.
You're so right.
Call it.
There was one part in London I used to drive past when I pretended to go to the gym, and I was just obsessed with it. But
some people like to go to the gym and work out. We like to get out and drive.
That's exactly it.
So yeah, 920. These are all 1980 turbos. So we got the stock 1980 turbo right here. So essentially, built in '79. This is Porsche's first front-engine water-cooled turbo. This is US spec version, as delivered from the factory with the Pasha interior.
I was going to say, the interiors for me, I mean, this is just an era that needs to come back.
Yeah.
These bespoke interiors, I think, are so amazing.
I kind of bought the car for the interior.
Good man.
That is bone stock 924 turbo. What's next to it is a pretty interesting car. This is Al Holbert, who was a Porsche factory racer back in the day. He had a Porsche dealership. Back in the early 80s, they did their own wide-bodied conversion kit on the 924.
Wow, okay.
And then the street version, the 924 Factory Carrera GT.
And is this actually a good car to drive?
Awesome car to drive, super well balanced, ergonomically everything's where it needs to be. Completely different to the 911 in one sense, but yet still typically Porsche DNA in the sense of, you know, the car's comfortable, fast, reliable, and the handle's great. So these are awesome touring cars. Those are 86 944, first gen 78, oak green metallic 928, Euro 5 speed.
That's beautiful.
I ended up acquiring a couple of 928s. So essentially this is what someone jokingly told me today was the unloved Porsche room. In reality, if there's a Porsche badge on it, to me it doesn't matter whether the motor's in the front, the middle, or the rear. A little bit of history about the building, just to clarify, this for me is a hobby, it's not a day job. You don't see anyone working here on other people's cars. I don't buy and sell cars. It's what I call an out-of-control hobby, so to speak. So,
or an obsession, I think.
Yeah, you know, my background, I came to America when I was 19, back in 1986, so I've been here 33 years. Porsche's my drug of choice, my religion, but the day job is I was in the film location business and the clothing business, all housed in this one building that was built in 1902, so by my math, 117 years old, which is pretty old for LA. But let me show you around.
Yeah, please, absolutely.
Remember me telling you a story about my first Porsche, which was a 74 911 slant nose that I bought at the Pomona swap meet back in 1992, 27 years ago. 27 years later, I happened to find, I'd been on a quest finding a slant nose conversion, or factory kit, or Kramer car, or DP. And I'd traveled all over, I'd even gone down to Miami to look at some cars, and none of them quite seemed right. They're either too expensive or just weren't quite right. This one fell into my lap right here in LA.
Okay, so here's the famous 277.
No, there's 277. Let me open the door, we'll throw some light on.
Oh, that would be ace. So you're outdoing me on the sticker front. I need to catch up a little bit on the on the stickers. Yeah.
So the car that became 277, the 71 911T, was actually the second car I ever bought. The first one was the 74 slant nose.
Okay.
I also bought this at the Pomona swap meet in 1999, 20 years ago.
So you the same swap meet or a different?
Same swap meet. Pomona swap meet is the greatest car show, swap meet, collectability, memorabilia, I think, out there. It's huge. It's been going 30, 40 years. I bought a lot of cars there. I had a 69 Super Bee that I bought there. I had a 62 Cayman Gt4 I bought there. But my favorite car, people often ask me if you just got to keep one, what's the one? 277 is the one. I've owned it 20 years, it's 48 years old, so I've almost owned it half its life. It's the one I've done all my track days in, club racing in, one I'm most associated with. It's like favorite pair of old shoes scenario.
And the best thing is how worn the left shoulder pad is. I think that's
the cars, you know, I'm one of those guys that have this saying, dirt don't slow you down, so chips and stuff like that, to me, they're just memorable moments. It makes the car special, it's patina, ultimately it's memorable moments, and to me, I don't need the car to be shiny, you know, it just shows that it's being lived in and being driven. This is my newest Porsche, the 04 GT3, Gen 2 996, one of my favorites. So the front row is essentially sport purpose treatable track cars. That's pretty much what I'm known for building, even though probably half the cars I own are unmodified, like the center row of turbos, for example.
And you wanted a GT3 not a 3RS for the 996?
You know, the GT3 RS 996 never officially came to the States. There are cars here. It's kind of an expensive car.
Okay.
For me, when it comes to Porsche, I've never really, believe it or not, spent much money on them. I was acquiring these cars. I'd always bought what I personally liked. The original goal was 64 through 73. That's kind of well known. Then I started buying 3-liter turbos when nobody cared about them. So for me, I'd always bought these cars when they were affordable. They may have gone up 4 or 5 times what I paid for them, but I'm not buying them at today's rate. So 996 GT3 RS is kind of an expensive car in America right now.
Fair enough.
So for me, my first water-cooled 911 is the 04 GT3. It's still somewhat affordable. Ironically, that's the car I drove on Sunday. You know, I forget that all my cars, you know, they don't have AC. I don't even think about AC. All of a sudden it occurred to me it was 105 degrees, that car has AC. So you
that
can
was
rip
the one you were
around with
taking,
the AC
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a bad place to be when it's 105 degrees.
For sure.
So that's one of my fave cars. Perhaps my most, I guess, performance-orientated build to date is this 964. This is a 1990 964. It's been stretched, louvered, tweaked, channeled, but still has the DNA of a 964. You know, a lot of people are backdating 964s or doing big wide-body conversions, which is great. But my goal was to keep all the 964 DNA intact. But instead of updating or backdating, this has elements of 356 in it, roof yellowbird, and then elements that I've added myself or had added to, such as the louvered fenders, the fender cap filler. You notice the hood's channeled, the roof's channeled, the rain gutter's been deleted. The flares are just dollied off, the lips rounded off, the edges been knocked off and slightly stretched. Has integrated turn signals on the rear. Has an early turbo tail minus the rubber that's been louvered. So it runs a 3.8 RS spec motor, KW coilovers, Brembo club race brakes. It weighs 2,560 pounds wet as you see it.
Wow.
So the power to weight ratio is pretty awesome.
And who did most of this work? Do you use different workshops? Is there a sort of go-to?
I have a little team of guys. This one was a collaboration. Quite a few people worked on it. There's a lot of send-out elements, like the hood, for example. This was a sunroof car. My idea was, let me do something that had never been done to a 911 of this era before. A steel channeled roof. The one that came before it, ironically, which I showed you, the 2.5 twin plug short stroke motor. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Motor? That's going in the 67S.
Ah, okay. So that's going to go in here.
It's going in.
But this won't be quite as sort of performance focused as the car at the front, or this will be of a similar level?
Real similar, because this is short wheelbase, narrow bodied with 271 horsepower in a car that weighs about 2,000 pounds. So the power to weight ratio of the 67S and the 964 is real similar. Check it out inside. We talk about sound. You know, if you look inside it, it's all stripped.
Wow. But also just the absolutely most perfect seats. I mean, I'm noticing as I'm looking around, I'm jumping ahead of myself and looking at the other cars we haven't talked through yet. But yeah, some of your interior trims are just right up my street, but awesome to see.
You've got to remember, I'm from a fashion background. I talked about my inspiration is Captain America, Evel Knievel, Americana, Dukes of Hazzard. I'm just incorporating, for me, those elements into what my favorite period of Porsche motorsports racing is, late 60s, early 70s. Numbers matching 2-litre car in Irish green, wood trim steering wheel, wood dash.
I'm on a mission to make wood great again. Rather than make green great again, I want to make wood great again.
Well, talking of making green great, I told you I had a few green cars. That's Irish green. This is ice green metallic. Check out the interior in this car.
Oh, wow.
That's factory.
That's factory. That's a green leather within a green tartan, basically.
Green avocado leather, green tartan.
Whenever you have green avocado in a car, you know it's going to be...
Let me show you something else that's kind of unique, kind of special. So remember me telling you about the 3-litre turbos that all essentially are the same car but drive differently?
Sure.
So that's the 77, 76, 76 and 275s. This car's pretty unique. It's the documented first US production turbo ever sold. The US market didn't get the turbo till 76. The rest of the world got the turbo 930 in 1975. This is left-hand drive. This is the right-hand drive car that came from Australia. So in 1975, Porsche debuted the production 930 turbo. They made 284 cars for the whole world. Only 32 of them were right-hand drive. And it's crazy today, everyone's getting all excited about paint to sample stuff, right?
Sure.
Porsche made 32 turbos in 75 in right-hand drive. You got to factor in the average color, black, white, red, silver, right? Iris green metallic. How many could have been copper brown out of 32 in right-hand drive?
I can't imagine many.
I think there's 2.
Okay, I was going to say 1 or 2, surely.
So we're talking about cool color combos. Ice green metallic, come and look at this interior. Also factory.
Whoa.
Full black watch tartan on the door panel, front seats, rear seats.
I don't know if people were just braver or more confident or slightly mad because you know,
different era in the 70s.
But this isn't Porsche material. You just found really nice tartans that you like.
Some of it's left over from my fashion line. This is actually made in woven in Scotland for kilts and scarves.
Okay. No, you need a matching kilt. That would be the real fashion now.
I do have it.
Yeah,
I do have it in scarf in that colour.
I should have known. I should have known.
Tartan outlaw all around.
Whoa.
But let me show you something a bit different. I'm obviously, you know, known as a Porsche guy. We spoke earlier on about, you know, I like to drive all types of cars, not just Porsches.
Please tell me you got Ferrari lurking in the back.
I think you can. No, I've got something even better.
Amazing, too cool.
This is even cooler.
Oh, I mean nearly as good. I'll be honest.
Nearly as good.
Yeah, I'm a Ferrari obsessive, but wow. And you even put your own touch on it.
I mean, don't tell anyone, you know, I owned a Ferrari at one time. I'm actually quite liking the look of a 348 right now.
I'm literally driving one in a couple of days. That's hilarious.
348 TR, I would actually like to own one of those.
And do you not think that the whole Porsche community is about, you know, personalisation, about tweaking? No one does it with Ferrari, obviously because of the values and stuff. But the 348 feels like a sweet spot that you could get one and kind of play with it and not be in too much trouble.
I used to own a 79 308 GTB when they were 20 grand cars. Okay. That was actually a pretty reliable car. That was back in the 90s, so 20, 25 years ago. But I always wanted a Dino. I drove one of those. I actually always wanted a 512 Boxer. I drove one of those, could never pull the trigger when they were like 40, 50 grand.
Wow.
So that was why for me Porsche was always great, because as great as the Ferrari is, they were 4 or 5 times the price of entry level into it. I bought a lot of 911s for under 10 grand.
Wow. I'm not actually going to let you escape this room though, because I know you're trying to get back to the whole Porsche thing, but 3 British guys, we have to talk about this a bit more. How long have you had this and the story behind it, and why have you hidden it in the back in a shamed way?
This is actually the second Lotus I've ever owned. The first one was a 73 Europa twin cam. Bring a trailer, right? It's addictive. You go on there and you start looking at things that you're not looking for and you go, wow. Lotus Esprit, I'd always wanted one Series 1 James Bond car, right? Well, Series 1 Lotus Esprit, when I looked at them 10 years ago, was a 10 grand car. Series 1 Lotus Esprit today is not a 10 grand car. They're actually kind of expensive.
For sure.
So I ended up finding a Series 2, 79, which had already sort of been modified. The motor had been built out to 2.2 litre. It actually had some sort of oddball elements like a turbo rear on it. So it was already outlawed in a way.
Sure.
So I acquired the car in December off Bring a Trailer. It's my second Lotus. Why is it buried here in the back room? Well, you know, the car has some problems. It's a Lotus, of course. So,
lots of trouble usually serious. Thank you.
A little bit like Fix It Again Tony, but Lotus, lots of trouble usually serious.
There we go.
So it's only back here because I'm running out of room in the Porsche department, and it's, believe it or not, too wide to fit into the room where the 924s are. So first world problem, it's in the back room because that's where the storage is. The unfortunate thing about the back room is it's kind of hard to get it out because you got to move.
You got to move a ton of things.
You know, sometimes you go, I'll go drive the GT3.
Well, you've blown me away with this tour, I have to say. I already knew I was going to come here and want to buy a million things, and now literally that's all I want.
Well, the good news here, nothing's for sale.
Yeah, that's relaxing. That's very. I saw Tony's eyeing some stuff up, but yeah, fantastic.
That's the story. Those are my Porsches, and
thank you so much. I think I'm going to just absolutely nerd out now and get some.
Go drive.
Yeah, exactly. Go drive, get some beautiful shots. Yeah, I appreciate it massively.
No worries.
I think it's fair to say that Magnus's collection lived up to every expectation I had for it, and he is a super interesting guy, so I really appreciate him taking the time to give me the tour. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. I realise quite a Porsche heavy video, but I was just literally, I mean, I don't care, it was amazing to be able to absolutely indulge in a bit of Porsche nerdery with the man, the legend, Magnus Walker. So give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.
What you said here.
Wow, this is awesome.
Guys, we're on the roof. Have you driven up Angeles Crest Highway yet?
I still haven't done it. It's the must-do, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a casual Porsche meet on Friday mornings, right? That happens.
Yeah, the Friday Breakfast Club is great, but any day of the week is great.
It's worth going to check out.
We could be there in half an hour to the